On this scramble, George does yellow. He starts off by solving this yellow center, like that, and then he inserts this green yellow edge, and he cancels into inserting this yellow blue edge, like this. And then he rotates and does ao4, like that. So some notes about your solution. You did a lot of moves. You did 16 moves, which is more moves than you should be doing at your level. Your V wasn't really that great. I would suggest that you spend more time looking for better Vs, because this was a 6-move V and you had to rotate. And there was a decent red V, but it's a little hard to see, but with some practice you could. So the way I would do red is I would solve this red green and this red yellow like this, and I would bring this red green down, and that sets up this red yellow. So when I bring that down, that's there, and now I just have a hedge. And that's 11 moves, which isn't optimal, but it's a lot less moves and it's fast. Another note about this solve is that you had a really big pause before recognizing ao4. It was almost like half a second. You need to start practicing your ao4 recognition. I would recommend just going on CS Timer and generating ao4 algs and just like practicing them over and over so that you can get your recognition down, because that's really crucial. Every like split second counts in Pyraminx. So yeah, get your recognition down. On this scramble, George does yellow V. He solves this yellow-red bar and creates this big bar here, and then he sledges in this yellow-green. Then he rotates and does ao4. On this scramble, there's a really easy 2-move red V, which I'm surprised that you did not see, because all it was is you just solve this bar, which is the same as the first move you did. So you could have just done that, and then you have that, and you just have that ao4. Or with doing the same V that you did on yellow, you could have solved that bar, and instead of sledging this in, which breaks up that bar, you could have done a reverse sexy move, which preserves this and gives you an L3E case, which if you want to get a little bit more advanced, you could do that L3E case rotationless. On the scramble, George does blue. He starts off by solving this red-blue edge and pairing it up with the center so that he could bring down this center and then finish the V like that. Then he rotated and did ao4 like that. So on this scramble, your solution was fine. Some other ways to do this scramble that could be better is to do a B move so that you could get this rotationless. Or another solution that you could have done is this red layer. So you could pair up this red green and bring it down and pair up this red yellow, and then you can pair up the red blue and solve the layer. However, when you're here, you could actually cancel into it by doing that, and that gives you a 10-move solution. On the scramble, George does red V. There's a solved bar, so all he has to do is 2 moves to bring this blue-red here and then solve it, and then he just has an ao4 case. So on the scramble, your solution was fine. However, there's a better solution that you can do with the same V if you just use an alternate alg. So from this angle, there's an algorithm that just goes like this, and you might recognize it. It's the same moves that you do for a 4-flip. So yeah, so this also lets you cancel into the algorithm. So you could go like that, and it would save you 2 moves, and in my opinion, it's a lot faster. On this scramble, George does yellow, and he solves this center, and that just leaves that to be solved. Then he rotates and does ao4 like this. So your solution was okay. Yellow is the best V to do in my opinion. However, if you used a better algorithm and a better angle of execution, it could have been a lot better. So the way I would have done this is solve the V like that with the B move, And for this case, there's an algorithm that lets you do this 2-flip in 7 moves instead of 9, and it goes like this. So some tips I have for you, since you're nearing the sub 3 level, is definitely start working on your tips. This makes a huge difference in your solves. So it looks like you do most of your tips at the beginning, or at least you do 2 of them at the beginning and 2 at the end, which is fine. Just practice your finger tricks and make sure that you know where your tips are going to be in your solve while you're solving. And also, another tip is practice your V's, because in a lot of these solves, your V's were not the best. And like some of them, in one of them, there was a 2-move V that you missed. So definitely spend more time in inspection to look at every V. I would recommend just like look at every V possible that you can make in the solve. Doesn't matter how much inspection you take, but it's good for practice. So another tip is that you should start learning some alternate algorithms for L4E. So like instead of doing that, you could just do like that, and it saves you more moves, and it'll be really helpful when you get those cases. I wouldn't learn ML4E just yet, but if you want to, you could. But that's not as intuitive, and I prefer that you keep it intuitive until you're at least to the sub 2.7 level, and then start learning some more algorithmic stuff.